Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be working on my 2018 Honda Rebel 500. I noticed a few weeks back when I was riding, I was having some droplets come out from underneath the water pump. At first it was just a few little blue drops here and there, but as time went on I noticed it was dripping more and more until it became a pretty strong leak. I'll insert a video here of what I was watching. So after I noticed that dripping happening, I ordered a gasket that goes on the cover of the water pump. I thought that might fix the solution, or that might be the solution, but it turns out it didn't really stop anything. I did change the gasket and I assembled it twice, just making sure I did everything cleanly. I did it a second time and both times it continued leaking. So I'm gonna go ahead and just replace the entire water pump. I didn't see a video on YouTube, so I'm gonna just do one here, see if it helps anyone out. Before I replace the water pump, the first thing you're going to want to do is completely drain all of the coolant and drain all of the oil as well. There are already videos on YouTube, so I'm not going to do that on this video, but if you want to look them up on somewhere else, that'll help you understand how to drain those two fluids before you get the water pump out. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the water pump portion. So just before I get started, just to cover some of the things you're going to need, obviously I went and I got the original OEM water pump for my year, make and model. This is what it looks like. Now I also ordered some of the bolts that mount it, but I don't necessarily think that's necessary, but I just did it just in case I end up needing them. This are some Allen wrench sockets, which make the job easier, but you could always just do it with an Allen wrench, I think. We're going to be using the 5 and the 8mm, as well as the ratchets and some pliers. Alright, the first thing you're going to want to do to get access to the water pump back there and make it way easier for you is take off these mounting bracket here for the gear control and the foot peg. The first thing is to take off this 10mm bolt right here, which controls the gear changer here. So here's just a bit of a closer look at that bolt I'm talking about. That's going to be this one right here where my finger's touching. And you're going to get a 10mm wrench, loosen that. And that's actually going to need to come all the way off. So just like that. Then that'll slide right out. Or it should slide right out. There we go. Disengage that. Now for this mount, you're going to use an 8mm Allen wrench socket and take that right off. And then once those two bolts come off, the whole bracket comes off with the gear select lever. Alright, next up you're going to want to take off this plastic cover here, which is held on by this bolt and the one right tucked under this wire here, which are both 5mm Allens. Yeah. So now once these two bolts are loosened, you can pull that cover out. Might have to wiggle a little bit and then push it off to the side like that. So here's what everything's going to look like once you get those brackets out of the way, the mounting brackets and the cover. Now you can clearly see your water pump here, which is held on by, I believe, 5 different bolts. You got this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, I believe 3 of these are just holding the cover, this black plate here, and 2 of them, I believe it's these 2, are going all the way through the entire shaft to mount to the whole bike. So now I'm just going to take my 5mm socket Allen wrench here, and I'm going to take off these 5 bolts. And I also, as you can see, put a pan down underneath to collect all the coolant and oil that may come out. There we go. All right, there's some coolant there. Okay, so as you can see, this bottom one here is the longer bolt. So I'm going to go ahead and actually lightly screw that one in You'll see why in a second. All right, actually, so instead of taking off all 5 of these mounting bolts for the water pump, we're actually only going to take off a few. I'm looking at the new one here and noticing that just on the left side of this black tube here, we have one that connects the black plate and the silver main component of the water pump, and directly on the opposite side of that as well. So these two need to stay on so that when you pull it, the whole black part and the silver part come out together, instead of just the black part there. So I need to make sure I take off all of them except these two right now, so I'm going to do that. All right, so you can see here I added that bolt back, and I'm also adding this one down here. So top to the left of the hose and down in this little corner. Now hopefully with these 2 bolts on and the rest of them off, there we go, you get the whole water pump to come out. You can see a little bit of oil on this side. So you can see the shaft of the water pump goes directly into this hole right here. Let me get this out of the way. And that's where the oil is housed. That's why you want to do the oil change before, so that when you open this and pull out the water pump, just a whole bunch of oil doesn't come out on you. But that's the idea. All right, so next up, you're going to want to disengage these little clips here that are holding on the 3 hoses. Earlier, you know, the clip was around here, and around here, holding it onto the water pump. But I went ahead and took some pliers and, you know, pulled those up and off so they're not gripping onto the water pump anymore. And hopefully I'm just going to slide these hoses out. They're a little on there pretty tight, but I'm going to wiggle it around until I get it. All right, so with the use of this little pick here and prying with the screwdriver and just any pliers I could have, I'm just working these hoses till they get loose. I did a pretty good job on this one here. There we go, get some coolant out. Just be careful not to get your hand, right? You don't want to be on this side poking this. You're gonna slip and get yourself there. So just be careful always. You know, loosen up here, pry a little, just be patient. Just keep working it. Just after all those years of heat, bonds the rubber with the metal. So, all right, I was working on that one and finally got it close to the end here. Ooh, that one was more difficult for some reason. Now I'm gonna work on this final one here. Again, careful with the pick, not to poke a hole in your hand, or in the hose for that matter. This one seems to be coming off. There we go. There we go. And there we go. Nice. Oh, perfect. I just dropped the clip in the oil, so I'll have to get that out right now, but there is the old water pump. This thing's got to go, and the new one's going to go in its place, so let me get started on that now. All right, there it is. So you can see what it looks like with the water pump gone. So I'm going to go ahead and just clean up this area here, wipe it off with a rag, make sure everything's clean where those 2 mating areas are going to be from the new water pump and where it's going to seal against that little silver ring. And then we're going to start putting the mounting bolts onto the new water pump, and hopefully, you know, just do everything in reverse and hope it works. It's my first time too, so we'll see. All right, so I got the area cleaned up there. Now, this should just slide right in. And these hoses connect right where you'd expect them to. There goes the top 2, as far down as I can get them. Now this bottom hose. There we go. All right, so we got that reassembled here. Now I'm just gonna clip on the clamps, or I guess clamp on the clips, I don't know which one of those is correct English, but you get it. You know what? I'm actually gonna get this water pump pushed all the way in before I work on those. Oh, wait, what's going on here? All right, so you can see on the end of the shaft here on the water pump, there's like that little cutout, right? The little slot there. Well, if you look inside this hole, way in there, there is like a little, what looks like a little flathead end of a screwdriver. That little flathead and this have to be lined up properly, so you just have to spin this correctly based on what you see inside the hole to make sure they line up when they go in, or else it's not going to fit in properly. Okay, there we go. So again, I still haven't gotten these clips on correct yet, but I'm going to mount the water pump first, just so it's steady and sturdy there. So when I do try to move around and maneuver those clips, the water pump's not moving on me. Whoops. Okay, one thing I forgot. Good thing I realized now before completely assembling it, but when we took the water pump off, this little guide bracket comes off because it's kind of sitting on top of the water pump. So I took it off earlier, set it down, but we need to make sure we put this back up. So if you look at it, you'll see that this side has one little hump here, and this one has this extra little notch, which is going to sit on the water pump that we just put on. It's going to push back, and it's basically going to go directly in between the chain to guide it as it goes across. So hopefully that makes sense. Basically just put it back exactly where it was before you took the water pump off. All right, so now that we did that, I'm going to go ahead and tighten these. Final one. Again, I'm not really tightening these too tight right now. Just trying to get them all on so it doesn't move too much. I'll tighten those in a moment. But we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total. These 2 are the ones that hold on the black front cover of the water pump here. So these ones already came on the new water pump. I didn't touch them at all, but we did add these 3 long bolts. All right, now that the water pump is sitting on there pretty firmly, I'm gonna go ahead and adjust these clips for the hoses to more properly situate them back to where they were basically in their original positioning. All right, now that the 3 hoses are placed properly with the clips holding them in place, I'm going to go ahead and tighten these mounting bolts on the water pump to firmly hold it in place. Based off another video I saw, the guy said that these should be torqued at 12 foot-pounds. So all right, so now that we've got the water pump securely fashioned on there, next step is going to be to put the cover plate plastic cover back on. Wiggle this stuff around. Might have to all right, there we go. So now I got the cover plate back on. Firmly secure these bolts for the cover. Not too tight, but back in place. Then we're going to go ahead and put the bracket which holds the foot peg and the gear controls. So what I'm going to do here is sort of move this foot peg in position so that it could eventually get onto the gear control there. Doesn't have to be perfect right now, but I'm just sort of getting it in position. Then I'm going to hand tighten these mounting bolts for the bracket. And here we go. Now, here's a bit of a trick here. There's a bunch of teeth on here, so you can accidentally mount this gear control way too low, like that, which would not be comfortable, or way too high, which would also not be comfortable. So you just want to do it in just the right position where you normally have it, so your toe can get under the foot controls, and then slide it. Here we go. So now that you have it in position here, slide it in and get your bolt up top again, and then tighten all that all the way down. And these two 8mm. All right, so now the bike is completely assembled back to its original. Got the water pump under there. Everything's assembled, and now we just need to refill that coolant and refill the oil, and hopefully everything runs correctly. All right, now I'm gonna fill up the radiator here, and this is just such a cinematic shot. I swear I'm not doing it on purpose. The sunset just kind of got there. All right, according to Google, Rebel 500 takes about 1.6 liters of coolant. All right, I'm gonna leave it at that. Close my cap, tighten up this little screw. Now, the oil. This is the kind of oil you're gonna want. And it takes about 2.7 quarts is what I heard on Google. We'll see how true that is right now, but we'll see how much it takes. Keep an eye on that window. All right, so you can see right there, but we're just about the halfway point in between the low and the high point of where the oil should be. I'm gonna go ahead and run it right now and see how it runs. Also, so the oil can run through the filter as well, and then we'll probably need to add a little bit more oil. So far, it's a good sign, because before, when I changed the gasket on the cover of my old water pump, even when I didn't turn on the bike and I ran some coolant through it, it already immediately started leaking. So it's not leaking right now any coolant, not leaking any oil. Everything seems to be holding. I'm gonna go ahead and run it for about a minute, see how it does. But it looks like it may have worked. Fingers crossed. We'll see. All right, so at this point, when the old pump was on and it was running even for about 30 seconds, you'd already see some droplets coming down from under there. Kind of where the lowest volt is on the water pump. It's holding on right now. It's been about 30 seconds of running time. It's looking good so far. It doesn't look like it's overheating from the display there. Oil did go down just a little bit, so we're gonna have to add a little bit more now that it ran through the filter. Well, I'll do that next. And we're not leaking any coolant, so I think it worked.